Diesel would see the photographer, and he would find out about the new photograph. So Thomas wished lots of steam. It billowed from his boiler and filled the whole station. So Diesel didn't see the photographer, and he trundled straight by. The steam has made my camera wet. I'm sorry, sir. We'll have to wait for it to dry. Tell the engines to come back later to Tidmouth. So all the engines came back later, instead of doing their jobs. At last the photographer was ready. No one had noticed Diesel wasn't there. Thomas was very relieved. But just then, Diesel oiled round the bend. Diesel was surprised to see all the engines. He screeched to a halt. Rolls of bunting went everywhere.
No one told me there was another photograph.
But I asked Thomas to tell everyone. All the engines looked at Thomas. Thomas felt terrible. Sir Topham Hatt was very cross.
Gordon, you were meant to pick up Mr. Giggles, the famous clown. Emily, you were meant to pick up the brass band. And James, you were meant to pick up the bunting and decorations. None of you arrived, so Diesel had to do all your jobs. And now he's late to do his own work.
Thomas was very upset. It's all my fault, sir. I didn't want Diesel to know about the new photograph. In the last one, he moved right in front of me, on purpose.
I did not. The photographer told me to move.
I did. Perhaps you rolled too far. Thomas knew then he'd made a mistake. I'm sorry, Diesel. I was wrong to think you did it on purpose. And I'm very sorry for causing all this trouble, sir. Soon all the engines were lined up. The new photograph was taken. Sir, if I do all Diesel's jobs, can he collect the new billboard?
That's a wonderful idea, Thomas.
Diesel agreed. For the rest of the day, Thomas worked hard. He did all Diesel's jobs. And Diesel picked up the new billboard just in time for the celebrations. It was a wonderful party. There were clowns and a brass band. Diesel and Thomas agreed that the new billboard was the best billboard they'd ever seen. Emily steamed around the final bend and straight into a big puddle of mud. I'll puff through this, thought Emily. Then there was trouble. The track started to sink. Emily was stuck. She didn't feel like excellent Emily anymore. Oh no, now I'll never get Trevor to the airport. Further up the track, Emily saw Murdoch. Murdoch's already there, she huffed to herself. I should have listened to Murdoch. I should have taken the Wellsworth track. Now she needed Murdoch's help. Emily blew her whistle as loud as she could. Murdoch puffed over. I'm very sorry, Murdoch. You were right. Please, will you pull me out of the mud? Of course, Emily. Soon, Murdoch was chained up to Emily. With a huff and a chuff, he pulled her out of the mud. Thank you so much, Murdoch. Emily puffed up to Farmer McColl's. Trevor was waiting. I must take you to the airport right away, Trevor. Emily pumped her pistons. Then she stopped. I know what I have to do, Emily thought. Murdoch, which tracks would you take to the airport? The tracks on Gordon's Hill are still being cleared. You should take the valley route instead. Thank you, Murdoch. And she puffed away. Emily puffed happily along the valley track. Murdoch was right, she thought. Then Emily saw a telegraph pole across the track in front of her. Emily was going to push it out of the way. Then she remembered what Thomas had said. I'd better wait for Harvey, she huffed to herself. Soon, Harvey cleared the track, and Emily was on her way again. Emily pulled up at a junction. Ahead, she saw a shortcut to the airport.
That track is muddy!
Emily remembered what Duck had said about muddy tracks. I don't want to get stuck again, thought Emily. I'll take the longer track. Soon, Emily arrived at the airport. Trevor cleared the runway. Just in time. Jeremy landed smoothly and safely. Sir Topham Hatt was delighted to see his mother. Please, unload these at once. Freddie had told Colin to wait for him, but Colin didn't want Freddie to get into trouble. Yes, sir. Then Mr. Percival went to look for Freddie. Soon, Freddie puffed up to Colin. I waited for you, but Mr. Percival told me to finish the job. It's all done now. He was very pleased. Freddie looked down at the canal. He wasn't pleased at all. The lights, presents, and the tree were floating away on a barge. The children would soon arrive at Mr. Percival's house, and there was nothing there for the party. And there was nothing at the wharf either. Now no one will have a party, Freddie huffed to himself. And I still haven't found Mr. Percival. He felt terrible. I must stop the barge. Then Freddie saw Mr. Percival. He knew what he had to do. Freddie chuffed over to see Mr. Percival. Where have you been? Freddie told him all about his idea to have the party at the wharf. It was a surprise for Colin, sir. Colin has never been to a party. Mr. Percival thought having the party at the wharf was a very good idea. But you should have asked me first. Oh, yes, sir. If I work quickly, I can still put everything right. All right, Freddie, but hurry now. Freddie raced to catch up with the barge. He called out to the bargeman. Stop! Please turn around and go back to Colin. All right, Freddie. Freddie steamed back to Colin. He told Colin all about the party. I wanted to have a surprise party for you. For me? Colin was delighted and surprised. Soon, Colin was unloading everything for the party. Now, Freddie felt very happy. He steamed away to Mr. Percival's house. Freddie whistled to the children. The party is now at the wharf. And they whooshed away. All the other engines were waiting at the wharf, even Thomas. Presents were piled high. The tree was covered in lights. And so was Colin. What a wonderful party! Thank you, Freddie! Freddie was delighted. All the engines whistled and tooted. The children cheered and cheered. It was their best winter holiday party ever. James huffed and puffed. He steamed and strained. His face was now as red as his boiler. James arrived at the top of the hill. He was very pleased. Now I can puff fast down the other side, he thought. Then there was trouble. Hector could see a snowslide had blocked the line. Hector knew that if James slowed down at the bottom, they would get stuck in the drift. Onwards, onwards! Don't slow down, James! But James didn't want to be told what to do, especially by a freight car. "I'll decide what we do," he huffed to himself. So James applied his brakes. The train smashed into the snow, and it stuck. James couldn't make his delivery. He felt very bad.
James is silly. James is slow. James has got us stuck in the snow.
James wished he had checked with the yard manager about the weather. He wished he hadn't tried to find his way through Shen Valley. And he wished he had asked Edward to be his front engine. Now I know Hector was trying to help me. The freight cars giggled. "Quiet! Please, Hector, how can I deliver my train on time?" Hector was happy to help. "I'm a very heavy freight car. We must race down the hill at full speed. Then we will biff the train right through the snow." What a good idea. So Hector was uncoupled from the train. James wished and wished. At last, he had hauled Hector back to the top of the hill. "Okay, James, go!" Hector and James raced faster and faster down the hill. There was a mighty biff, and Hector pushed the train right through the snow. "We did it, Hector! Well done!" Hector was pleased. Stanley and Thomas were already at Great Waterton. James, Hector, and the train arrived. "You made it! We were worried!" I wasn't worried. Hector helped me all the way. Stanley and Thomas looked surprised. You can always rely on a good freight car. Hector was happy to have helped. And James was happy to have a new friend. "I'm not the man in the hills. I'm the miller." Thomas could see the miller was no longer white. All the flour had blown off him. Thomas was upset. The miller was worried. "I still have to make the birthday cake for the party. And I have to make the ice cream." The little engines were cross. "You said you'd bring the best present of all. Now Mr. Percival doesn't have any presents, and we're all late." Thomas felt terrible. "I wanted to find the most special present all on my own. But all I've done is spoil the party for everyone, especially for Mr. Percival." So Thomas asked Scarloe and Rheneas to take the party tent. "Please, hurry." The dairyman and the miller boarded Thomas. And Thomas raced quickly away. Thomas was determined to put everything right. Thomas delivered the dairyman to the dairy to make the ice cream. And he delivered the miller to the mill. At last, the cake was baked, and Thomas chuffed quickly away with it. Thomas met Freddie at a junction. Freddie was on his way to the party. "I have to get the birthday cake to the party as quickly as I can. Please, help me find the shortcut." Freddie was happy to help. "Come on now, follow me." And together they puffed quickly away. Thomas and Freddie stopped at the Green Hills Junction. Suddenly, Thomas gasped. "Bust my boiler! Look!" There, all in white, was a man. He was carved into the hillside. He shone in the moonlight. "It's the man in the hills! Thomas, you found him!" Suddenly, Thomas had an idea. "Freddie, please bring Mr. Percival here with all the engines." And Freddie raced away. Soon, all the engines were gathered by the man in the hills. The engines gasped, and everyone was delighted. There, far away and high up in the high hills, Sir Handel was ready to tell his story. And Mr. Percival had the best birthday present ever. From all of them.
With a crash and a bang, Thomas and Diesel smashed Harry and Bert right through the back of the engine sheds. Stones and timber flew everywhere.
Bust my buffers.
Uh-oh! Then Henry arrived.
I've come to collect my train.
Your train isn't ready. Then the yard manager arrived.
Thomas, you have pushed Mavis off the rails, and Harry and Bert through the back of the engine shed.
Thomas felt worse than ever.
Oh no, it's all my fault. I should have done my job and not raced against Diesel.
Come on, let's have one more race.
No, Diesel, I have an important job to do.
Thomas puffed over to Henry.
I'll fill your cars as fast as I can. Your train will soon be ready.
And Thomas chuffed quickly away. Thomas felt terrible.
I must work very hard to put everything right, he thought to himself.
Thomas shunted the cars under the hut. Soon they were all filled. And Henry huffed happily away with his train. Then Thomas collected Rocky. Rocky lowered Mavis back onto the tracks.
I'm sorry I bashed you. I was trying to win a race.
Mavis was relieved to be back on the track. Next, Thomas shunted Rocky over to the sheds. Harry and Bert were soon back on the rails.
I'm sorry I biffed you. I should have done my job instead of trying to be the fastest.
Then Diesel rolled in.
We must clear all the cars of broken stones.
Yeah, sure, Thomas. At last, the freight cars were loaded with broken rubble from the sheds. So together, Thomas and Diesel shunted the freight cars as quickly as they could. Finally, all the jobs were done. We still don't know who's the fastest. Let's have another race.
All right, but this time we must go forwards.
So the two engines raced away to the quarry gates. And they both arrived together.
Gordon's Hill, Edward thought. It's the fastest way to Great Waterton. And, he huffed to himself, the other engines on the hill will all see my special.
Edward chuffed and huffed up Gordon's Hill.
Oliver and Arthur passed him coming down.
They both thought his special was magnificent. But the water wheel was very heavy. Edward huffed and puffed up the hill. At last, he reached the top. But the edges of the water wheel were cutting deeper and deeper into the ropes. Then there was trouble. With a final jolt, the ropes broke. The magnificent water wheel rolled off Edward's flatbed. Fizzling fireboxes! Gordon was further down the hill with flatbeds of scrap iron. The water wheel rolled down the hill. It bounced onto Gordon's flatbed. Now Edward's magnificent water wheel was on its way to the smelters. Edward had to get to the smelter's yard before Gordon.
Edward puffed and Edward panted along every shortcut he knew. No one saw Edward pass, and no one stopped to wave. That no longer mattered to Edward. He had to save his magnificent water wheel from the smelters. Gordon puffed slowly into the smelter's yard. He pulled up outside the smelting shed. Then, suddenly, there was Edward. Gordon was surprised. Edward the Steady had won his race against the fastest engine on Sodor. The magnificent water wheel was once again tied down to Edward's flatbed. Edward the Steady, once more at the ready. And his wheels clickety-clacked without a cheer or a clap along the way. The water wheel was put into place. It looks grand. It looks magnificent. And Edward didn't need anyone to tell him that this had been a very special. Gordon's express line. Oh no! Here comes Gordon. I have to rescue Toby. So Thomas puffed quickly back to the points. He changed over onto the express line. Thomas buffered up behind Toby and shunted him as fast as he could.
Hey, help, 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 help!
Don't worry, Toby, said Thomas, and he shunted Toby off the express line and into a siding. Gordon chuffed past. He didn't see Toby. I rescued you.
No, you didn't. Gordon was bringing a mechanic to fix me.
Thomas knew he'd made another mistake. I haven't rescued anyone. I'm not a hero. And now the firefighter won't get to the medal ceremony on time. Thomas felt terrible. Just then, Percy puffed up. Percy, will you go and pick up the firefighter for me? Percy was very pleased. You'll have to hurry. The medal ceremony starts soon. So Percy raced away. Thomas knew what he had to do now. Thomas collected the mechanic from Gordon and took him to fix Toby. Then Thomas found Harvey. He took Harvey to move the fallen tree. Harvey soon cleared the track. Thomas puffed sadly back to Tidmouth. He saw Bertie the bus. The children were standing around him. What's the matter? I'm stuck in the mud. Now I can't take the children to the medal ceremony. Shall I take the children for you?
Yes, please.
So all the children climbed on board Annie and Clarabelle. And Thomas puffed away. Thomas arrived at the medal ceremony just in time. Sir Topham Hatt and Lady Hatt gave the firefighter his medal. The children were very happy. You're a hero.
And you're our hero, Thomas.
Thomas, the hero, beamed from buffer to buffer. It made the balloon get bigger. This gave Duncan an idea. He huffed and puffed and puffed and huffed. The balloon got bigger and bigger and floated away. Duncan was delighted. He raced on to Mr. Percival's house. Mr. Percival was waiting for him. "Where's the hot air balloon, Duncan?" "It came loose, sir, and floated away." Mr. Percival was upset. Then there was trouble. The balloon floated down from the sky once again, straight towards the weather vane on Mr. Percival's roof. It burst on the sharp point. The balloon tumbled down. Fizzling fireboxes. Duncan was upset. Now the twins wouldn't have their balloon ride at all. "It's all my fault, sir. I just wanted to give the twins their birthday treat, just as I always have." Mr. Percival was cross.
Duncan, you were going to give the twins their birthday ride. You were going to pick them up and bring them here.
Duncan felt even more upset. He wanted the twins to have a happy day. "Sir, Peter Sam could pick up the twins. Then I will go and collect the balloon repairman. I'm sure he could fix the balloon." Mr. Percival thought this was a very good idea. So Duncan puffed quickly away. Duncan raced into Mountain Village Station. The balloon repairman was waiting. "We must be quick, sir. The balloon has to be fixed before the twins get home." Duncan chuffed quickly back to Mr. Percival's house. Mr. Percival was very pleased to see them. The balloon repairman looked at the hole in the balloon.
"Oh dear, it's a very big hole. I don't have enough material to fix it."
"I know, sir. My birthday flag. It just might be big enough." The balloon repairman looked at Duncan's flag.
"Well, yes, Duncan. That would be perfect."
The balloon repairman fixed the balloon just in time. Peter Sam arrived with the twins. They were delighted. Soon, Mr. Percival and the twins were floating high above the island of Sodor. And Duncan felt so happy, he thought his boiler would burst. Special too, Rosie thought happily. But it was Emily with the rest of the carnival cars. Rosie's flatbed was now rolling back towards Emily. It bashed into Emily. Seats from the big wheel clattered and clanged all over the tracks. Emily was stuck. Rosie chuffed into Maithwaite Station. Nobody waved or whistled. Sir Topham Hatt was cross.
"I told you to be Emily's back engine."
"But I brought the carnival special, all on my own, sir. I wanted to help Emily."
"You haven't helped anyone. You have caused confusion and delay. You've left half the train. Now there'll be no carnival for the children."
Rosie felt terrible. She had wanted everyone to be proud of her, and now they were cross. "Please, sir, I know just what to do. I'm a very quick engine. I can collect all the cars. Then I will be Emily's back engine, and we will deliver the carnival special in time." So Rosie whooshed off as fast as her wheels would whir. First, Rosie collected Rocky. Then she pulled him as quickly as she could to Emily. Emily's tracks were still blocked. "I am so sorry, Emily. I only wanted to help you. Rocky will clear the line. I will collect the other cars. Then we can deliver the carnival special together." "Thank you, Rosie." Rosie left Rocky, and she raced away to collect the first freight car. She picked up the coconut car. Then Rosie collected a new car of sugar, and she raced back to Emily. Rosie had been very quick. Rocky had just loaded the seats back on the flatbed. I'm ready to be your back engine now. And together, they set off up Gordon's Hill. Rosie and Emily arrived at Maithwaite. All the children waved at the two engines. We have delivered the carnival special in time. That evening, Rosie and Emily watched the children at the carnival. The children were having a wonderful time. I hope we can work together on another special. The sooner, the better. Working with you is the best of all. Rosie couldn't have felt happier.